isn't a change to cling on for. And therefore, yes, the rational thing to do for him personally and for party and country is now to stand down. But I quite agree, he doesn't show signs of doing that. Therefore, there will be an ever-intensifying push from all levels of the party to push him out.
You withdrew your support from Boris Johnson about a month ago. Rishi Sunak and Sajid Javid got the memo last night. Is it right now for us to read the last rites on Boris Johnson's time as Prime Minister, do you think? Is it over for him?
I think it is over, yes. Well, it's reading the last rites slowly, I think, unfortunately. For the party and the country, it still looks like a slow process because Boris still isn't accepting that this really is over. But it is. People will ask really, well, then what has changed yesterday? And I think, well, what's different now since yesterday from a month ago when there was the vote of confidence and people like me were saying, yeah, this is unsustainable now. What's different now is that whereas a month ago, there were Conservative MPs just agonizing on their own and creating a vote of confidence in an uncoordinated way. It wasn't a plot. It was just a cry of anguish from dozens of members of parliament separately. What's different now is the Conservative Party is going to turn its collective mind as to how to prize Boris Johnson out of 10 Downing Street, because I think probably that's now the view of the majority of MPs. It's, as far as one can tell, the view of the majority of Conservative activists around the country. It is the view of senior ministers, some of the most talented ministers in the government who resigned yesterday. And so now this moves to, well, everybody discuss together how we're going to do this and bring this tragic situation to an end. So I think that's what's really changed in the last 24 hours.
Is there any part of him, do you think, that will just say, I should resign? Because in light of everything you've just said, it is absurd, isn't it, William Hague, to cling on? Because what are you clinging on for? You can't cling on against the wishes of the party that you lead. It's impossible for a leader to do that, surely.
Well, it is, yes. I mean, of course, political leaders do cling on, and in a way, one can always admire the tenacity of that. But it's rational to cling on if something is going to happen that turns it all around. You know, here comes the secret policy that nobody knew about before, or they're really fighting over a principle on which they're not going to give in. But this is not about any of these things. This is about a way of government being conducted that much of the Conservative Party, most of it, I think, can't stomach anymore. That was shown again in the last few days over the matter of Chris Pincher. You know, and people like me have been writing, as you will recall, loyal Times readers will recall that for months I was writing, oh, this is how Boris could change. This is, this is how to restore ethics and integrity to government if he takes out these measures. And this is how to get a grip on government policy on Brexit and so on if he does X, Y, Z. Well, now I think certainly I and many others have come to the conclusion he's not going to change. This is, we were hoping, but it's just never going to happen. So there isn't a change to cling on for. And therefore, yes, the rational thing to do for him personally and for party and country is now to stand down. But I quite agree, he doesn't show signs of doing that. Therefore, there will be an ever-intensifying push from all levels of the party to push him out.
Is it possible, how will that happen then, do you think, William? Do you think that the 1922 committee will quickly change its rules? In the old days, presumably, someone would sit down with him and say, do you know what, Prime Minister, it's over. You don't want to see it, you don't want to believe it, but it's over. I'm not letting you leave this room until you resign. Is there anyone in the party who can do that? Is there anyone he would listen to?
Well, of course, I mean, we're all doing it in many ways, aren't we? His Chancellor and Health Secretary, in effect, did that yesterday. You're right, though, that was in the old days, you know, the famous men in grey suits have gone round with the whiskey and the revolver, as it were. But that was before there were rules on the leadership. And now there are rules about the leadership election. And those were triggered a month ago. And they're not meant to be triggered again for 12 months. Now, I've never been enthusiastic about changing the rule. If you keep changing the rules according to the circumstances, what's the point in having the rules? But with a prime minister who defies all the normal rules and conventions of politics, probably they are justified in, if it's their view in the 1922 committee, in changing the rules pretty quickly, or threatening to change the rules, as they did when pushing Theresa May out of office. In this case, and they should get on with that quickly, because this is now a very damaging situation to the country and to the Conservative Party, and it needs resolving in the national interest as quickly as possible.
Can if he survives the next couple of weeks, there'll be summer recess, William. Is it possible that he's still Prime Minister in the autumn?
It is possible. It's really hard to get somebody out of 10 Downing Street if they're really determined to stay, and if they have just won a ballot under the rules, which they did a few weeks ago. So of course, that is possible. Everything is possible, but at some point in the coming days, weeks, or months, this premiership is doomed, and I think there's no getting away from it. I don't think there's a recovery from that. I don't think once you reach the point where the Chancellor and the Health Secretary and the party chairman resign, there isn't a comeback of say, oh, now I've won all these people over again in a couple of months' time. It's actually only going to get worse, not better. And so it's better to recognize that now. But when that will happen, none of us know.